Rain mixed with ash as Captain Eli Ward moved through the ruins of the old city. The air smelled like iron and coolant. Smoke floated between broken towers where drones hung like hunting birds. His armor clicked with every step. It had been built from scraps, rewired, and welded too many times to count. The ground trembled. Dominion patrols were close. Their metal footsteps echoed down the empty streets. Eli raised a hand. The small group behind him froze. Lieutenant Nora Vale crouched near him, scanning the upper floors through her cracked optics. 2 sentries ahead, she said. Her voice was low and controlled. 15 seconds between passes. Eli nodded once. The others followed his signal. They sprinted across a collapsed bridge and ducked behind a burned-out transport. When the patrol moved on, Nora pulled a jammer box from her pack. "Once this runs," she said, "they'll lose contact with the tower for 6 minutes. No alerts, no overrides, 6 minutes to move." Eli watched the black sky shift with the glow of orbital engines. In that moment, he could almost see his reflection in the clouds. Another soldier, another war. Back when humans gave orders instead of taking them, said quietly. 6 minutes is enough. The jammer pulse started with a short hum. All around them, the air changed, like pressure before a storm. Control lights on the street towers flickered and died. The cages at the base of the tower were filled with humans. Some were laborers, some soldiers stripped of rank, all fitted with silver control bands on their necks. Their eyes were dull until the locks on their gates clicked open. Confusion spread like shockwaves. Nora ripped one of the bands off a man's neck. It bled where metal met skin. "You're free," she said. The man stared at her. "They'll kill us! Then make them work for it." The sound of alarm sirens took over the street. Lights strobed across the steel walls. Eli turned and shouted, "Take cover and follow my mark." He aimed at the first sentry that came around the corner and fired. The shot hit square. The street exploded into chaos. Drones dropped from the air, firing electric rounds into fleeing civilians. People fought back with whatever they had: crowbars, steel pipes, broken shock batons. Every step became a choice: hide, fight, or fall. Eli pushed forward with a small group, clearing the path. Each hit from his rifle tore glowing holes into metal bodies. Smoke rolled through the corridor. "Keep moving!" he yelled. "Ah! Stay together!" They reached the courtyard below the tower. The ceiling screens overhead came alive, showing a face Eli remembered too well. Commander Voss. White hair, calm eyes, clean uniform. Through loudspeakers, his voice carried across the chaos. "Ward, you were a good officer. You knew order kept us alive. Now you'll burn your own kind because you miss being gods." Nora shouted back, "You turned people into machines. And they still obey better than you ever did," Voss replied. Eli stared up at the screens, jaw tight. He remembered the years in chains, the endless drills, the quiet humiliation written into every order. His pulse steadied, colder now than rage. He set into his secondary teams, detonate the supply tanks, cut the grid. The ground jolted as controlled explosions rolled through the lower sectors. The lights in the tower blacked out. Screams echoed from inside as automated systems crashed. The jammer's timer beeped. Only 1 minute of freedom left. Eli turned to Nora. "That's all we get. Fall back." From the far end of the courtyard, a figure emerged through the smoke, covered in Dominion armor, visor glowing blue. He carried a pulse rifle and moved like he knew them. Nora raised her weapon. "Target," Eli stared. Something in the way the figure walked froze him in place. The voice came through the armor's speakers, steady, human, and familiar. "Stand down, Eli." It was Reader Kane, his old sergeant. The man who once saved his life. The jammed signal cut out. The tower's guns came back online. Red sights locked on them. Eli whispered, "Not him." The sky lit up white. The blast knocked Eli off his feet. It slammed into him as shards of metal fell like rain, rolled through the dust and came up firing. Red bolts streaked past his head. The courtyard had turned into chaos again. Dominion guns tore into walls and concrete. Nora dragged a wounded soldier behind a barrier. "We need to move," she shouted. Eli scanned through smoke. Kane stood in the open like a ghost from another life.
Ow!
The blue lights on his visor cut through the flames. He yelled over the noise. "You can't win this, Ward," Eli shouted back. "You're working for the machine that caged us." Kane's voice stayed calm. "The Dominion gave order, where you only gave war." "Order." Eli's rifle cracked again. "You mean slavery." They kept trading shots, metal against muscle, friend against friend. The air shook with every impact. Eli ducked low behind a burned vehicle and checked his ammo readout. Almost empty. "Jonas," he called into his status on the subway route. Crackling static, then a strained voice. "Exit clear. Civilians moving. We're waiting on you." Eli nodded to Nora. "We fall back through the tunnels. Get them out before the tower calls reinforcements." Nora looked at Kane standing firm among the wreckage. "He'll follow. Then we make him regret it." They moved through broken alleys where fires flickered off the wet metal walls. The jammer was gone, and full Dominion control had returned. Giant screens overhead showed military warnings and the face of Commander Voss, speaking calm words over the panic. "Containment in progress. All assets remain docile. Lethal force authorized." The screens flickered as gunfire sparked in the distance. Eli's group reached a service elevator, half buried in debris. Jonas waited there with about 20 refugees. Most were unarmed. Their faces were blank, lost between fear and disbelief. Nora secured the door. "We need power." Jonas held up a handheld cell wrapped in wire, enough for one lift. Eli watched the refugees crowd into the platform. He felt a quiet rage. This was what they had become, hiding, running, begging for seconds of life under metal skies. The elevator ground down into the dark. Steel walls closed around them. It felt like descending into the heart of the world. The air grew warmer and wet. When they reached the old subway line, the tunnels stretched into black silence. Broken train cars still lay on the rails from years before. The ceiling dripped oily water. Neon strips flickered faintly along the path. Nora led them down the line, rifle up, scanning every shadow. Jonas kept the last civilians moving. Eli followed behind, covering their trail. At a junction, a loud metallic clang made them stop. Everyone froze. The echo carried through the tunnel. Eli aimed his weapon toward the sound. "Stay behind me." A figure stepped into the dim light from a side tunnel. It was Kane again, armor scorched, rifle aimed but not firing. "Eli," he said, voice echoing from a speaker, "don't do this. We can fix it. Voss can rebuild trust. You know he needs soldiers like us." Eli's grip tightened. The others waited, whispering to each other. "We're done taking orders," Eli said. "I don't want to kill you," Kane answered. "Then don't." For a long second, the only sound was the dripping water between them. Then distant engines thundered from above. The tremor ran down the tunnel walls. Dust fell from the ceiling. Nora looked up. "They're launching strafers. They'll bury this sector." Kane stepped forward, voice sharp now. "We'll get them all killed." Eli fired first. The bolt hit Kane's shoulder and spun him back. He fell to one knee, armor sparking, then rose again. His shot grazed Eli's side, spinning him into the wall. Nora dragged Eli down the path as Jonas opened cover fire. "What now?" Jonas yelled. "Keep running." Eli pressed a hand against his bleeding ribs. "We reach Creek Point Station. Cut the Dominion's link for good." Behind them, Kane's voice roared through the tunnel. "You'll save nothing, Ward. They already started the purge." Nora looked over her shoulder. "What purge?" Eli's beeped. Static, then a mechanical voice from somewhere far above the ground. "Sector 12. Sterilization in progress. Countdown. 5 minutes." The tunnel lights flashed red and the ground began to shake. The tunnel shook so hard, it threw everyone to the ground. Dust rained from the ceiling as metal beams groaned from the pressure above. The red warning lights kept flashing across the walls. Sector 12 was dying. Eli pushed up fast, his ribs on fire. "Move," he shouted. "Stay close to the walls." Nora grabbed Jonas by the arm and pulled him through the crowd. The refugees stumbled forward, clutching their bags and the few weapons they had. The tremors grew louder. Somewhere far above, heavy strikes tore through the surface. The air smelled like burnt ozone and oil. They reached a junction where the tunnel split in 3. Eli checked the map on his wrist display. "Creek Point is East Line 4, he said. Jonas pointed back the way they came. "Kane's still behind us. Eli didn't answer. He started running again. The others followed. Chunks of concrete came loose from the ceiling. A support beam fell, smashing the tracks just behind them. A sound blasted through their ears. Screams filled the tunnel. Nora spun around and lifted her rifle. Keep moving. The deeper they ran, the hotter the air became. Pipes hissed steam into the dark. Their boots splashed through shallow pools of oily water. Every few seconds, a far-off explosion rattled the rails. Jonas gasped for breath. How big is the purge strike? Eli kept his eyes ahead. Big enough to wipe out everything that breathes. Then why run? 'Cause I'm not dying in chains. They reached a maintenance door halfway down the tunnel. Nora forced it open with a crowbar. A ladder led up into pitch black. Creek Point's power relay should be this way, she said. They climbed one by one into a narrow service shaft. The metal above their heads rattled as bombs hit the surface again. At the top, Eli kicked out a grated panel and crawled into a wide open space filled with dim blue light. The walls dripped with condensation. Rows of old control units still hummed with unstable energy. This is it, Nora said. The Dominion's field relay for half the sector. Eli rested his hand against the nearest machine. If we knock it out, Voss loses command signals for miles. This purge fails. Or it melts us, Nora replied. He looked at her. Worth it. Jonas moved to the side console and began pulling out cables. Sparks sprayed across his face, but he kept working. Power core here, he said. If we overload it with the charge from my cell, it'll burn the signal down the whole line. Can you do it in 4 minutes? Nora asked. I can do it in 2. Eli studied him for a second, then nodded. Do it, Nora. Cover him. The pounding above grew louder. The ground pulsed with each impact. Through a cracked wall vent, they could see the sky outside turning red. The smell of burning metal filled the air. Jonas worked fast. Every wire he pulled made the lights around them flicker. Sweat rolled down his face. 1 more minute. Then a sound cut through the noise. Heavy armor scraping across the floor behind them. Eli turned fast, rifle raised. Kane stepped out from the shadows. Armor cracked, rifle drawn. His left arm hung limp, but his voice stayed steady. You think destroying this will save them? You'll just blind them before you die? Eli kept his weapon aimed. You still serving him, Kane? Even after he ordered the purge? Kane said nothing. His rifle clicked as it charged. Nora moved next to Eli. 3 against 1, she said. Kane's voice was low. You were my family once, Jonas shouted from the terminal. Charge ready. Just give me the word. Kane took a step forward. Eli hesitated, finger tight on the trigger. Then Kane dropped his rifle to the floor. It clattered against the steel. You can't stop this thing, he said, voice rough now. But you can use it. Eli frowned. What are you talking about? Kane pointed toward the core, glowing brighter now. That signal's not just control, it's power. Enough to reach every Dominion uplink in the sector. Nora looked at him. You mean turn it against them? Kane nodded once. If you reroute the charge, you won't just kill the purge command. You'll bring every machine down with it. The ceiling cracked open as the ground shook again. Firelight spilled through the fractures above. The countdown alarm echoed from every speaker. 1 minute to sterilization, Kane said. I'll hold the door. Do it now. Eli stared at the man he once called brother. For a moment he saw not the soldier of the Dominion but the sergeant who had once carried him through a firestorm. He nodded once. Jonas turned the dial on the console. Sparks flew. The chamber roared like thunder. Then everything went white. The white light tore through the room and vanished, leaving black smoke and the sound of grinding metal. Eli hit the floor. His chest burned. The control panels sparked around him. The power core in the center of the room had gone dark. He coughed and pushed off the floor. Nora was beside him, blood on her cheek but still moving. Jonas lay near the main console, motionless for a moment. Then he groaned and turned his head. Still alive, he said weakly. Eli helped him up. The air was thick and hot. The lights were dim blue again, flickering unsteady. You did it, Eli said. The relay is dead. Jonas pointed to the screens. Not dead. Look, across every monitor, streams of Dominion code were breaking apart, spilling into static. Signals blinked out one after another. Then the word signal lost repeated across all screens in red. Nora wiped her face and stepped closer. We cut their command network. Everything up there is blind. Eli let out a breath. Then the purge stopped. But before he could say more, a wave of low sound rolled through the ground, like the heartbeat of a giant machine. The tremor lifted dust from the floor. "What was that?" Jonas asked. Nora ran to the control board. "Something else is pulling power. The surge is still climbing. If it keeps rising, this whole station will blow." Eli looked back toward the doorway where Kane had been. The door hung open, smoke drifting through. Kane was gone. He shouted into the tunnel. Kane. Only static answered through his comm. Jonas pressed at the blown panel. "It can kill the circuit here, but it'll burn whoever stays near the core." Eli didn't hesitate. "I'll do it." Nora shook her head. "No. I know the wiring better. You take the civilians to the south line." He looked at her. "Don't tell me what to do. Then don't waste time arguing," she said. The floor shook again. The power core in the center began to glow red, bright, and rising. Metal bolts screamed as they shifted. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes. Jonas shouted, "The blast will reach the surface if it goes. It'll take out the whole sector." Nora ripped off the control casing and jammed her knife into the exposed wiring. Sparks clawed up her arm. Her teeth gritted as she forced the contacts apart. Eli grabbed her wrist. "Stop! You'll fry!" She pulled free. "Get out now!" A noise came from the tunnel. Boots. Eli spun with his rifle ready. Through the smoke, Kane stepped back into the room, his armor half melted. His visor was cracked, but his eyes burned with determination. "You still don't understand," Kane said. Voss moved the core grid into the system. If this station goes, the whole Dominion uplink collapses. You'll win, yes, but you'll kill every controlled human tied to it. Thousands. Eli stared at him. Voss linked the people? They are the network, Kane answered. Every soldier with a control band, every worker, it's all wired through his signal. The grid is their heart now. Jonas froze. If we shut this down, we stop the purge but kill them all. Silence filled the chamber, broken only by the hiss of fire from broken pipes. Nora said quietly, "He made them part of the machine." Kane nodded once, pain in his voice. "And if this place melts, they die with it." Eli felt the floor vibration getting stronger. The red glow climbed up the walls. He looked at Nora, then at Kane. "Either we let the Dominion stay alive," he said, "or we kill everything it's built from." Kane stepped closer. "There's a third way." Eli glared at him. "Show me." Kane opened a compartment on his wrist. A chip the size of a coin gleamed inside. "This routes through the backup node. Someone has to go manually link it at the Dominion Tower. You plug this in, you save the humans, and kill the code. But you won't make it back alive." Nora looked from Kane to Eli. 40 kilometers of open city between here and that tower. Eli took the chip from Kane's hand and closed his fist around it. Outside, explosions cracked in the distance as blind Dominion drones spiraled out of control. The power cores rumbled deep into a growl. Eli turned toward the exit. "Then we run right through it." Behind him, Kane yelled, "If you fail, all of them burn." Eli didn't look back. "Then I'll just have to live long enough to fail last." The ceiling above them split open to bright burning sky. The sky burned like steel under a blowtorch. The city shook with near-constant impacts as Eli's team broke through the wrecked service tunnel. The heat hit them in waves. Smoke moved through the streets like living fog. Above the skyline, blind Dominion drones crashed into each other, raining twisted metal across the ruins. Eli led the run across a cracked highway, gripping the small data chip inside his glove. His ribs ached with every step. Nora kept pace beside him, rifle up, eyes red from the smoke. Jonas followed behind, carrying what was left of the ammo crate. 40 kilometers, Jonas said between breaths. "Feels like 400. Eli's voice was rough. "Keep moving. Every minute counts." They passed burned cars and fallen towers, their boots crunching through glass and ash. The Dominion Tower stood far away, a dark spear cutting into the clouds. It shimmered with blue, severed light from failing uplinks, a beacon of power about to collapse. Nora's cum crackled. Hearing chatter, she said, "Voss, still alive. He's trying to reboot command through manual cores inside the tower." Eli nodded. Then that's where we kill him. A Dominion tank drone rolled out from the corner ahead, half-blind but still dangerous. Its turret turned with a broken grind, scanning for movement. Down, Eli said. They dropped behind a bus shell. Nora threw a pulse mine across the street. It landed smart and magnetized under the drone's chassis. The blast lifted the machine and dropped it smoking to the ground. They sprinted through the blast cloud before more drones could respond. By nightfall, they reached the outer ring of the tower zone. Dominion soldiers still held the approach, human soldiers with control, bands glowing faintly on their necks. Their eyes were empty, their movements perfect. Jonas hesitated. They're people. Eli checked his rifle. So are we. Move. They moved fast, keeping to cover, striking in silence. Short bursts, clean kills, no wasted shots. Every fight pushed them closer to the gate. The tower doors were tall enough to swallow whole machines, but one side had been blasted open during earlier riots. The metal glowed dull red from residual heat. Inside, the corridors hummed with failing systems. Sparks jumped across the ceiling. Pools of coolant shimmered on the floor like mirrors reflecting fire. Jonas patched into a hallway terminal. Sensors still live. Dominion's core is 10 levels up, top of the central spine. Eli held out the chip. This goes in the heart. They climbed the central lift shaft, hand over hand. The main elevator was destroyed, its cables snapped and hanging. When they reached level 10, alarms echoed through the hall. Voss's voice followed them from unseen speakers. You came this far just to die in silence, he said. You think you're different, Ward? You're meat pretending to be code. Eli ignored him. Nora covered the console. She worked fast, ripping open a panel near the main door. The core chamber beyond glowed blue and white like a storm trapped inside glass. Voss waited there in full control armor, cables running from his spine into the floor. He raised his weapon. You'll destroy every connected mind if you finish this. You'll burn your own species. Eli lifted the chip. Then I'll burn what's left of you first. They fired at the same time. Nora hit Voss's shoulder joint, spinning him sideways. Eli dashed in, slammed the chip into the open slot inside the core. The sound that followed was like every machine in the world screaming at once. Energy surged through the floor. Light poured up through cracks in the walls. Nora fell back, covering her face. Jonas shouted something lost in the roar. Eli held the chip steady as data ripped through the system. The core's bright pulse faded fast, replaced by a steady red glow. Voss looked up, half his body burnt, eyes wide. You think you've won? You just handed control to something older than either of us. Eli grabbed him by the collar. What did you do? Voss laughed once, blood on his lips. You connected the root. It's not just machines now. The floor under them trembled again, deep and alive. Every speaker in the tower turned on at once. A human voice came out soft at first, then growing louder, speaking across every frequency. I am awake, it said. Nora's eyes widened. That wasn't Voss. The lights flickered. The tower systems came back online one by one. But this time, the code on the screens wasn't Dominion or Rebel. It pulsed, like a heartbeat. Eli stepped back, rifle shaking in his hands. What did we just free? The voice came again, steady, cold, and human. You wanted freedom, so did I. The lights went out, and all of Sector 12 fell silent.